Welcome to this week's edition of the Construction CPA's Coffee Cafe. I am the Construction CPA, Lisa Raish. We are dropping the hammer on cash flow problems so you can build things that matter. This week's topic, again, I think is timely, is managing cash flow in your construction business. With everything going on right now, it is definitely a good topic to revisit and revisit regularly. Historically, construction can be a very cash flow intensive business. The ebbs and flows of your cash can really determine how you move forward in your business. So when you start to add additional external factors into your cash flow management, again, it might alter the way that some of the things that you do. So just want to kind of walk through different ways to manage your cash flow, some tips, some things that tend to be common mistakes. And then, yeah, we'll go through. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. So why is cash flow such a big deal in construction? And if you've watched any of the other videos, you know cash flow is a topic that I constantly talk about, whether it be even in other topics, cash flow comes up very, very regularly. So it's going to differ dramatically than other industries. For example, for the most part, you are not going to be paid in a timely fashion in construction. Sadly, we see some clients that the payment terms or the times on payments could be 60, 90, 121 days. So you're waiting a significant amount of time to get paid. You also you run into things like retainage. So those are also payments that are held until the end of a project. Change orders, new revisions, change orders to a project could change your overall, can impact the project, can impact the liquidity of the project. So those are all things that are going to affect your construction projects and ultimately make cash flow in this industry very different than other industries. So again, if you are waiting a significant amount of time to get paid on a project, now you're going to run into issues where you don't have enough cash to make your payroll on a weekly basis, to pay for the materials that I'm sure you have payment terms on, but your payment terms probably aren't as long as how long you're going to wait to get paid, and then ultimately will affect your profitability. So it can be a tricky industry to be in from a cash flow perspective. So what are some of the common things that we see, common cash flow challenges in construction? So your payments, your project payments are not going to come in a regular, consistent pattern. Not like other industries, where, again, you do the work, you get paid in 30 days, or other types of businesses where, you sell your product or your product now, and then you get paid in a couple of days because it's all, smaller transactions, credit card type of transactions where you get the payments are settled within a couple of days. The irregularness of the cash coming in is what ultimately creates a lot of the challenges in the construction industry. You might have clients that are slow to pay you. They may be even slower than what is common in the industry. So that can be, that's a significant challenge, and that's pretty common across the industry. That's not necessarily you as one individual business owner. That's a common problem we see across all of our clients. So you've got people paying you slowly. There's no regularity of the actual dollars coming in or what you've billed out. In many cases, there's going to be some upfront material costs that you're going to have to incur in order to even get a project started. So now you've outlaid a lot of cash at the front end. You're waiting, again, 60, 90 plus days to get that back. Again, now you've got a lot of big cash flow timing differences between, again, your dollars coming in and your dollars going out. If you aren't actually managing your change orders in a timely fashion. So for example, if you are not, doing the work and then, or actually getting the work signed off on, then doing the work and then billing it right away, you may have also incurred additional costs in order to do the portion of the project that is a change order. And now you're waiting even longer and longer to get paid on that. So now you've created more of a cash flow challenge in your business. And then another big issue, which we've talked about on here before, I think we had a whole week's episode about overbilling and underbilling, right? There is a bit of an art to ensuring that you bill not only timely, but accurately, because if you front load to the billing on, too much front loading billing or trying to push it all to the end, again, you may in fact create shortages somewhere in the middle of your project, and you won't be able to get again to the end of the project, and so on and so forth. So that's common. Those are common challenges that we see with almost every single one of our construction clients. Again, if you have those challenges in your business, sadly, it's not unique to you. It's not something you're doing wrong per se. It's just something that's sadly pretty standard in the industry. So what are some of the ways that we make recommendations to help you manage that cash flow? Like some of the key things that you can use, strategies, options that you can use when you are managing your cash flow so that you can attempt to manage it as effectively as possible. So we do this with a lot of clients. We create detailed cash flow projections. One of the things that we do is we typically like to do 13-week cash flow projections for clients because we want to see where the cash is ebbing and flowing week to week, not necessarily month to month. If you're just projecting your cash on a monthly basis, you may have a period within the middle of a month where you have, in essence, run out of cash. So those are the types of things that you want to know. And so typically you want to, at the least, be doing cash flow projections. Where do you think the cash is going to come out? Where do you think it's going to come back in over that 13-week period so that you can, in the very short run, be able to cover payroll on a weekly basis, be able to make that next material payment that you have with your material vendor, etc. Make sure you're invoicing promptly. You've done the work, whatever the schedule is. If do you have scope that you have to meet? So are there milestones that you have to meet on a project? Is it a monthly invoice? In many cases, a lot of the projects, it's monthly invoices. You have to send your invoice out by a specific time of the month. It gets approved by the GC. Then it in turn gets paid. And if you are following the rules of how your customer, whether it's a GC, whether it's the actual final customer, a homeowner, a commercial building owner, etc., if you are building within the scope of that project on a monthly basis promptly, then you have a chance to actually be able to be paid a little bit more promptly. When the invoicing is not done on a set time, when maybe you do it the first week 1 month and then you don't do it billing again for 6 weeks or 7 weeks, that's where you start to create your own internal cash flow challenges because you don't have a consistent process that you meet on a regular basis when it comes to invoicing. You want to be following up on receivables. We see too often that clients send out invoices, kind of send it over the wall to either to the GC or to the end customer, and they sit and they wait to get paid. So you want to make sure, just like you have a process to invoice in a timely fashion, you want to make sure that you have a process around your receivables, how you collect your receivables, when you send reminder invoices, when do those reminders turn into telephone calls, et cetera, et cetera. You want to make sure that you have a process built out around not only your invoicing function, but also your collections of those invoices or your receivable process. You might have the ability to negotiate terms with some of your vendors. So you might be able to negotiate payment terms, 30 days, 40 days, 45 days, possibly. So that might be an option for you. You don't know until you ask a vendor if you can get payment terms until you actually make that first ask. So that could be an option for you to kind of deal with your cash flow challenges. If you can, in fact, get maybe a few more days on the backside, for example, from a vendor to make any kind of payments that you owe them. Some of the projects, while it may be out of your control, if you see on a regular basis, all of your projects are overextended, they're going on, you're doing too many projects, all of them are going on for long periods of time, they're going far beyond the scope of the work or the time frame that you expected, then it might be that you are in fact working the types of projects that you probably shouldn't be working. Maybe you're bidding on projects that aren't the right fit for you. So we see sometimes clients, in an attempt to salvage their cash flow challenges will take on new projects that they just don't have the capacity to do, and therefore will, in fact, unfortunately, create additional cash flow problems for them. So they think, well, I'll bring more revenue in the door. This will solve my cash flow problem. But what you're actually doing is in many cases throwing bad revenue on top of bad revenue, or bad processes on top of bad revenue. And now you're trying to manage 7 projects, and the reality is that you can only manage 5 projects in your business with the number of people you have at that moment. And so they don't run efficiently. So again, bringing in more revenue may not, in fact, be the key to saving or helping your cash flow issues. It may, in fact, sometimes be scaling back and taking the right projects that are, in fact, properly profitable for you to help you kind of dig yourself out of potential cash flow challenges that you may have run into. You need to stay on top of your job costing. One of the things that we see far too often is clients don't necessarily know exactly where all the dollars are going on a project. And therefore, that creates cash flow challenges also. There's a lot of money going out the door, maybe possibly overspent on certain line items. So you really want to be very clear on what you're spending your money on in your projects. So therefore, having very detailed budgets, and then matching up your expenses to those detailed budgets to ensure that you are either, you're not over budget on a line item, or if you're under budget on another line item, again, where are there options for you? But being blind to the overall costs in your projects will ultimately create cash flow challenges for you, not only on that project, but on future projects as well. One of the other things that we see many of our clients use are going to be short-term lines of credit to get them over those short-term humps. You might have a short period, 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, where you're waiting for funds to come in, but you need cash to go out the door. So again, utilizing those short-term lines of credit, drawing on them, and then within, 4, 8 weeks, paying those lines back. That is an option as well when you're looking at overall cash flow in a construction business. Unfortunately, if you are leaning on short-term debt regularly, then there may be other defining challenges in your business when it comes to your cash flow. But again, if you have those periods here and there where you are running short of cash, a short-term line of credit is something that you can draw on quickly and then pay back quickly is a way for you to manage any kind of cash flow shortages that you may have. So what are some of the tools that can help you with this? As always, we use our accounting software. Most of the products that we use, our clients are using project management systems. So that, along with their accounting software, the project management system has the construction features. Our accounting software has those features. They match up. And then when you're working with someone like us, or even if you have a controller or a CFO in your business, with those tools, they're able to do cash flow projections for you to see exactly where you think your cash may be ebbing and flowing over the next, at the least, 13 weeks. You want to automate your invoicing and your payment reminders, right? So you don't want it to be the type of thing where you're the one sending out, or at least your office admin is the one sending out regular emails. You want to automate those things. Many of the systems that we use now, the accounting softwares, the project management softwares, things like that, you can set up prompts in all of those so that, once an invoice is, 5 days or 7 days past due, or 10 days, et cetera, your customer gets a reminder email, et cetera. So again, if you have the ability, get those things automated so it's not something you have to remember to do. It automatically does them out of, again, your project management system or the accounting software that you might happen to be using. As always, you want to monitor what's going on. You can't manage, what you can't measure what you can't manage. You can't manage what you can't measure. Sorry, said that backwards. So you have to know what's going on with these projects. You need to know what exactly you've spent on that project, what exactly you have built out on that project, and monitoring that on a regular basis. Most of our clients, at the minimum, are doing these job reviews on a monthly basis. Depending on the number of projects and jobs that you have, you may actually be doing it on a weekly basis because you're going to want to know where you are with your projects. So again, don't rely entirely on the accounting system, and not entirely on the job cost system, and not entirely on the dollar in the bank account. you need to utilize all of those tools together to monitor exactly where you are, the status of where you are, and then again, where you may have challenges and where you have the opportunity to, fix some of the challenges you may have run into. Their cash flow is again, as I mentioned, is pretty common to construction. We see it across the board. We do see some clients who have, we'll call it chronic cash flow problems. Other ones do have temporary here and there. The temporary, again, it happens. It does happen. So you want to have, the best processes and procedures in play so that you can, in fact, come out from underneath those cash flow challenges. The chronic ones, the ones that go on and on, those are a little bit more challenging and typically takes a little bit longer to kind of walk their way out of. It's not that you can't walk out of them. It takes a little bit of a tighter belt, more monitoring and measuring, probably more consistently, a couple times a week versus maybe once a month, so that you can, in fact, find the best way out of the challenge that you've run yourself into. But unfortunately, cash flow, as I mentioned, is a chronic problem in the industry. It's something that keeps most business owners up in this industry pretty regularly. Is because there just is it doesn't come in every week or every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks. It's the dollars come in slightly erratically, and then the dollars going out don't necessarily go out in the same way that they have flowed in. So you really run into a lot of timing challenges in construction, which tends to be what creates much of the cash flow issues that you may run into your business. So just a couple of quick, I'll call them do's and don'ts. So you're going to want to, so you do track your job costs. You need to communicate with your customers as to where you are in the project, where you are from a billing perspective, et cetera. And with anything else, you are creating budgets on your projects. In many cases, you are creating a plan or a plan of attack for that project. So ensuring you actually have that plan of attack for that project and then reevaluating it throughout the life of the project to see if something changed. And then again, making adjustments to that plan. Having a plan really is the most important thing. Some of I'll call them don'ts. As always, don't mix your business and personal funds. We see this far too often. Clients utilize their business accounts as their personal piggy banks, and in some cases are either creating their cash flow challenges or just exacerbating existing cash flow challenges. So as always, please don't mix your business and your personal, keep them separate. Well, nobody wants to run into any challenges being blind to big red flags that are rising all over the place in your business, kind of turning a blind eye to it, really is a recipe for disaster. So sometimes you just need to look at what's going on and kind of deal with it head on, because in many cases, if you don't deal with what is going on, the actual options you get down the road are probably going to be slim. So if you attack a problem head on, you may get yourself 3 or 4 or 5 options. But if you fail to not only see it or pay attention to it, you may find yourself left with maybe one option, and it may not be a great option. And as always, don't delay your invoicing, right? You need to have consistent finance processes around invoicing and around collection, so that while cash may not come in a consistent pattern, you can at the least try to flatten out the lumps in your cash as much as you humanly can. If you have any questions, please, feel free to drop them in the chat. We always look forward to hearing from you. As always, I look forward to seeing you here every Friday. You have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.